I need another notch on my belt. If you're looking for a six-pack, muscled up kind of man, better look somewhere else.
It's bacon time, everybody. Welcome to Dads with Bacon Talking Sports for this January 15th, 2025. Glad to have you all with us, and apologize for the late start. We had a few technical difficulties, as sometimes we do, but we're going to get kicked off talking about some college football playoffs. And so to do that, we're going to bring in our buddy TJ, our buddy Steve, and Big Ben. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. I got my TJ hat on today. So
Nice. How are you doing, Steve? You had a couple days here of work meetings, you said?
Yeah. I'm also just not a happy Pittsburgh sports fan. Let's just put it that way. I mean, we're deciding who's going to be our next football coach, even though it's probably still going to be Tomlin. And Pirates baseball tickets went on sale today. The Penguins can't win a game. Our lead goaltender got waived today. They're going to put him in the minors. But I mean, I don't know. It's just not a good day to be a Pittsburgh sports fan. And Penn State's out of the college football playoffs. So I mean,
okay, so the real truth comes out. It had nothing to do really with your meetings. It's just that you're with the Steelers and everything else. Got it. It's okay. You can be honest. You know, this is a safe space for dad sports fans for sports fans in general that are kind of pissy. You know, I've been in a baseball mood lately, and for you guys that have been doing the show for a while with me, know that that's really weird because I'm usually have no interest in talking baseball during the season.
Extremely rare.
Exactly.
It's going to snow here in Maryland, and funny thing is, it's actually snowing.
Wow.
Well, yeah, we saw Charles with his video the other day of him spinning his kids around in the laundry basket down in Georgia with some of the snow there. It's crazy here too with the weather. We're supposed to get negative 35 next week, I think, 1 or 2 days with the wind chill. So that's something to look forward to. Okay, let's talk some college football playoff. And last week we had let me bring it up here. So last semifinal games, obviously last week were Notre Dame. Sorry, Steve. 27-24 over Penn State, and then of course Ohio State 28-14 over Texas, in a game that was actually a lot closer than that final score showed. Okay, Steve, let's let you vent a little bit here. You have any? Well, actually, I mean, I know you're more of a Pittsburgh fan, but you also were kind of cheering for Penn State, if I'm not mistaken.
I was, but if my predictions actually came true, because my final that I predicted last week was going to be Notre Dame, Ohio State. It came true. I'm just excited. I know there's some people that are saying that this is not like a glamorous matchup. I think that this is actually going to be a very good game. I mean, I honestly was more in shock about how much, Ohio State versus, and you said the game was closer, but the fact that, I mean, Ohio State went down to basically Texas's backyard and just said, okay, we're gonna run this game. And you know, it was Ryan Day that has solidified he is now safe. And I think if he wins the national championship, it's going to change some minds in Columbus, because, I mean, there were folks that wanted to run him out of town not too long ago. And he has proven that somehow, some way, even though he can't beat that other team to the north, he's a good football coach, you know, and it's exciting. I'm happy for the Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten had, dominance getting into the college football playoff, and you're going to have a Big Ten team playing a team that is, I mean, Brian Kelly is the loser in this whole thing. He leaves to go to LSU because he's going to go and win a national championship, and they bring Marcus Freeman in, and there were the doubters saying Marcus Freeman can't follow in the footsteps of Brian Kelly. Well, you know what? Guess who's playing in the national championship in an expanded playoff? Even there was a tougher road for them to get to the national championship game than just a couple of years ago with the smaller field. And, Notre Dame, Penn State, they had 0 receptions 2 wide receivers in that game. They could not hit a wide receiver. Notre Dame knocked them down, locked them down, threw defenses at them that Aller could not manage, and James Franklin and his staff just couldn't compensate. I mean, kudos to the entire Notre Dame team, staff, everybody. They figured out how to beat Penn State, and they did it. So I'm looking forward to what I think is going to – and I know, Aaron, you're probably going to just flip it on every once in a while. I know where you're going with this, but it's going to be appointment viewing for me next week. I'm going to probably try to watch it almost the entire game. I mean, even if it's a blowout, I still think it's going to be fun to watch.
Well, and I'll be completely honest. I'm probably pretty full of crap when I said I'm not going to watch it. It's football. It's a college football championship game. I'm sure I'll watch it. I don't know if I'll be cheering for anybody. But TJ, what are your thoughts? And you're the Texas guy here in the group. What were your thoughts on that game and on both games in general?
So I'll start with the Penn State game. I was actually very upset with how Penn State was playing. Like Steve said, they had 0 receptions for any of those receivers. And it's kind of ironic because I think 2 of the receivers that were playing transferred out.
Yep.
And actually one of the receivers that transferred out, last name Flowers, is one of my best friends, Zay. Jarvey. Jarvey's little brother played at Penn State, and he transferred out because they didn't target him at all, and he was a threat. So, with that game, I said it. I'd rather have Notre Dame win. I wanted Notre Dame, Texas. We'll get to the Texas part soon. But, that game alone, I think, kind of proved that Notre Dame is here to play, and it's a team to be reckoned with right now. I really root for Notre Dame for anything when it comes to hockey, football, lacrosse. I don't like the gold domes. I think they just need to get spit on and spit shine sometimes. But I have a deeper hatred for OSU. So let's go to the Texas game. Charles, I'm sorry the SEC is out. We did our best, but Sark.
I'm not.
Hey, we had to throw the other conferences a bone. What can I say?
It's all right. We lasted long enough, but hey, you know what? With this game against OSU, I will not lie. I think Sark threw that down the toilet.
Yeah.
You're in the red zone and you do a pitch behind the line and you get hit. But that's not the Sark that I wanted to watch at all. It's kind of funny. My wife and I were laying in bed watching the game. We were down 14-0. I said, all right, we're going to turn this off. I don't want to watch it anymore. I'm pissed. The season's over. And she looks at her phone, looks at me, takes the remote, turns the game back on, and we finally scored. And I'm like, oh, crap. All right, we're going to watch the game. Watch the rest of the game. And, when you're a diehard fan for any team, it hurts to watch your team lose. But this one actually didn't hurt as bad. For some odd reason, it did not hurt as bad as I was expecting. And, it was a great season. We lost a lot of guys to the draft now. I'm going to be very, very honest with you. This is going to be a different Texas team coming in next year, and I don't have any high hopes. Arch Manning's probably the brightest light that we have, but everybody else is leaving. Hopefully transfer portal comes in for us. But, I give my kudos to OSU. But yeah, I don't even think I'm going to watch this game. Honestly, it's hockey season for me now.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a little surprise here again. Ohio State to me, it surprised me. Number one, I disagree with Steve here a little bit. I don't think Ryan Day is a great coach. I think he's in a great program that recruits very well, and he knows how to keep it between the lines. And right now, they've got the right combination of talent that they can compete. Will Howard's an experienced quarterback. Quinshawn Judkins, solid running back. They've got, I forget the other guy's name right now. They have 2 running backs that can absolutely ball out. Ohio State always has an O-line. They always have a defense, and they always have wide receivers. I want to see what Ryan Day would do if he had to go coach Minnesota. Would Minnesota do anything? Probably not. But that being said, he is in the national title game. He is going up against Notre Dame, a bitter rival for Ohio State for a national title. TJ, I agree with you. I think Sark kind of blew that one. I think he'll learn from it. I disagree with you in that I think that Texas is still extremely relevant next year. I understand there's a lot of talent going out, but Texas right now, the way they're built and the way they're set up again, it feels more like Texas of old / Alabama, Oklahoma of old, where it's just you're not rebuilding, you're reloading. It's Texas is going to be fine. Arch Manning is going to see to it. I think that Evers kind of hurt himself. I think Aller's stock dropped heavily in that game. Looking at Penn State as a whole, when I think about Penn State, I think about wide receivers, I think about linebackers, I think about running backs. And like Jahan Dotson, Chris Godwin, you can go down the line of Penn State wide receivers, and the list is prolific. Not to have one reception to a wide receiver in a game that's arguably the most meaningful game in the last, 30 years for Penn State, that's a little bit embarrassing. I think that Franklin's job should still be safe. I'm not sure that it is 100%. There's some pieces there that got to be sorted out. But no, for 2 games to me that were disappointing, not because of the results. I don't mind the results overall. I expected there to be a little more of better football, for lack of better words. It felt sloppy for a semifinal matchup for both of them. And that's where I want to see a little better football for this championship. Okay,
Charles, what are your thoughts on the two?
The Notre Dame game I found a bit entertaining, especially the end of the game. It was at least captivating. But God, Ben, I don't know why we keep agreeing on shit here lately. But seriously, I agree. Like, they seemed kind of sloppy, like the games. Like, I didn't feel like any of those 4 teams really came out and showed their best throughout the games. They just were a little lackluster with their play on both sides of the ball from all 4 teams. The Notre Dame outcome, I kind of figured that was going to happen. Ohio State did surprise me, but I don't know if it was really as much of Ohio State having a good game as it was Texas just playing a bad game. It was almost like their heart wasn't into it. And yeah, I felt like some of the play calling was a little suspect for Texas. It wasn't the result that I wanted to see, but that's all right. We've got one more chance to see Ohio State lose. So hopefully that'll happen because,
ask you a question here.
That whole state is just in complete, utter bullshit right now, but I'll talk about that later.
Well, I want to ask you a question though on that whole topic. Looking at Georgia and Texas, I feel like both of them made the same mistake. They both walked in assuming they're going to win.
Yep.
And they got punched in the mouth and didn't quite respond the way that they're used to responding. Is that just my bias against the SEC, or
No. I mean, when you win as much as they do, it's kind of hard not to come into a game like that. I mean, you're in the best conference in football. You expect to win. You walk out on the field, and you're the only royalty on that field. It's hard to not be a little egotistical about your play. I get that. Hopefully, this will be a gut check moment for both teams, and we'll come back next year and show everybody how to actually play football.
See,
seriously, it was the Notre Dame Georgia game. Look, man, Georgia got outcoached. I put a lot of that on Kirby. I really do. And I was saying it then. I said it right after the game. They got outcoached. But yeah, pride is a blessing and a curse sometimes.
I kind of agree with Charles on that. Texas actually, it was funny because the whole week before the game, Texas was like, this is a home game. Like, majority of the fans out there were all Texas. So this was a massive home game. I mean, it's only an hour and a half from Austin. Yep. And, some of the guys, like Michael Taft, he's going to be a 5th-year senior next year. He's coming back, and that's awesome. That's an anchor that we need in our secondary that I'm ecstatic about. He said something on his Twitter saying that going through the week, it was not the same practices they've had all year. It was lackadaisical. It was like, hey, yeah, Ohio State, whooped up on the number 1 team, but that just shows that now we're the best team and they got to come through us. And, Texas pride, it bit them in the ass immediately. I mean, yeah, they put up a fight, but there were some plays where I'll be honest with you, defensively, the first 14 points that Ohio State scored, that's not the Texas defense that we all watched the beginning of the year or against ASU, because that Texas defense looked like they didn't care. It looked like they were like, oh, we'll come back in the fourth quarter. We'll do something, second half and come back to win this. And yeah, they got some momentum. They tied it up. They were on a roll. But it's like that strip sack that they had, it just deflated everything. And I said it when it happened. I looked at I looked at my wife. My buddies are texting me, and they were like, what's going on? I said, I honestly think this had to do something with just how arrogant they were walking in. Like, this wasn't a Texas team coming out of the locker room at all, the beginning of the game to halftime with the swagger they needed to play. This was one of those, like, sorry to say it, they had big dick energy, but they had small wieners at that time. I mean, they literally walked out swinging a fucking 12-inch dick, but it was 2 inches the whole game, and it bit them in the ass immediately. A lot of people down in Austin are freaking out now because they're saying, Sark messed up. They're going after Sark's head. They're going after Quinn's head. They're going after a lot of people, but what they don't realize is it's not just one or two people that did this. It's the whole squad. It's the whole team that messed up as a whole. And you can't just put it on one person. Yes, Quinn Ewers should have held the ball a little bit differently. They wouldn't have had that strip sack. Maybe the game would have gone a separate way. But at the same time, Sark was not running this team how we've seen it all year. And I think that's what truthfully bit them massively in the ass with that.
With that, okay, so as you guys are talking, I've heard you say a few different times, mention Sark's coaching performance or coaching job for that game. Do you think he cost himself any potential, say, NFL coaching opportunities with that? I know there was talk that, in fact, I think it was last show, TJ, you had said that you thought Jerry might be interested in having Sark coach the Cowboys. Do you think that's still the case, or do you think this game had any impact on that whatsoever?
I don't think it had any.
We'll talk more about the Cowboys later, because obviously there was a guy that's entered the picture that we'll talk about later. But in terms of Sark, what are your thoughts on that?
So I don't think it really messed up anything for him to go to the NFL, but I think what's keeping him in the 40 acres right now is the fact that they gave him a multi-year contract, and he's liking what he can do in Texas. He has full reign over recruitment, over, the NIL deals. He said, like, I think it was a couple of days after they interviewed him, he said, you know what? Yeah, he was like, I'll take that one on the chin. That was my fault. He's like, we definitely should be the ones to go to Atlanta right now. And, he's like, I'll take that one on the chin. He goes, but behind the scenes, he goes, we've been recruiting out the wazoo, and big names are coming in the transfer portal that you guys are not going to realize. So I think Sark has that opportunity to go to the NFL. I don't think he's going to take it unless something massive comes up where some team throws him like a boat, a Lambo, and a Ferrari, along with like 75% stake of that team. So I think he's kind of happy where he is on the 40 acres. I, as a Texas fan, would love for him to stay, but it's never the same. When we had, Tom Herman, I was happy with him. They let him go and then brought Sark on. I was happy because now Sark made Texas from a Big 12 team who was built for the power and just physicality to an SEC team that has physicality but speed now. And that's what, I think that's the difference of the way Texas is built. Is Sark has been in the SEC for numerous years under Saban. He's built that team to thrive in the SEC, where I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it no matter what. OU did not. OU is still stuck in the Big 12 ways. They're big and they're slow, but they are slowly coming into that SEC mentality. But I think Sark's going to stay. I give it possibly another 3 years. I see him maybe after Arch Manning, if we can't get somebody either through transfer portal or a good signing, I see him kind of dwindling a little bit and maybe kind of testing the waters in the NFL.
Well, yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. If you can help lead a major Texas college to a national championship, you're a bigger god probably than leading some NFL teams to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. I mean, we all know how big Texas football is in Texas. So yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him unless it was, I could see with, the Cowboys, if Jerry just says, you know what, I'm going to give you full control and you're going to do everything, and I'm going to give you a boatload. Well, then I could see him doing that. But yeah. All right. So let's before we move on, give our predictions for the national championship, since this is our last show before that. Charles, we'll start with you. Ohio State, 8.5-point favorites. Over under is, from what I see here, 46.5 points. What are your thoughts on this game?
Ohio State sucks. Notre Dame's going to win. It's gonna be. I think it'll be close, but I think Notre Dame is going to pull this out in the end. I think we might see something a lot like we just did, where it comes down to maybe the last drive or two to get the win. But I do think that I think that Notre Dame is a better coached team. I think they're a very, very well coached team. I think that they're probably just, practicing and game planning this entire time. They ain't taking a break from nothing. They got no pride. They've earned their spot there, and I think they're going to show everybody why. Plus, Ohio State sucks.
And I will say what pisses me off the most about this game is that Marcus Freeman seems like such a good dude that I feel like I want to cheer for Notre Dame, and it makes me feel dirty. It just does. It makes me feel dirty.
He really is.
Right.
He seems like a stand-up guy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even the way, like, when, of course, she brought, after the game on what night did they play? That was Thursday night, correct? Thursday night.
Yeah.
And
Thursday night was Notre Dame.
Yeah, and after the game, of course, the question was asked about him being the first black head coach to go to the national championship or whatever, and even the way he answered that, it's like, damn, I can't be annoyed with, I can still not like the Catholic Church, but I can't hate Notre Dame.
I think
Why
he was
they
more.
asked about him being the first Asian coach.
Or was it?
Because they're black, but he's mixed, right? Like,
Yeah.
Is he?
yeah.
Okay.
So technically, he's the first Asian coach to go to the national championship, the first black coach. Why didn't they ask about him being the first Asian coach?
Did I join at
don't know.
the weirdest time ever?
Yeah, you did. You
Yes.
did, Adam.
You did.
We're giving our
Fucking media.
predictions. We're giving our predictions here for the championship game before we move on to NFL. Steve, what are your, again, 8.5 points to Ohio State, 46.5? I mean, you think
I just don't know what
struggle?
I don't know what these people are thinking with giving Ohio State. Like, no, Notre Dame is the better team in this matchup. As Charles said, this is going to be another chance for Notre Dame to show off all of their coaching and all of their weapons. I mean, didn't the Penn State game show, like, once again, 0 wide receiver catches by Penn State? Like, I don't think it's going to be. I think Ohio State will get wide receiver catches, but this is not going to be a Ohio State blowout by any means. I think Notre Dame, it's not going to be a blowout in Notre Dame's favor either, but I don't think this is going to be a Big Ten championship year. This is going to be Notre Dame's year to celebrate. And Charles, you guys do get the consolation prize in the SEC because it's your officials officiating this championship game.
The best
Well,
officials
that
in
doesn't matter.
the game.
There's no SEC team in it, so they'll call a fair game.
No, they won't. They'll take Notre Dame now. They'll call for Notre Dame the whole way.
I'm all right with that if
Yeah.
they do.
All
That's
right,
fine.
seriously, there's too much Notre Dame love in here coming from Steve. Is Combsy here somewhere that I'm not like aware of? He's like just lurking around it with his Notre
Say his
Dame
name
love.
when he appears at him.
No,
Yeah.
Joe Hendry's here.
No.
Where?
No.
DJ, what are your thoughts on the game?
So, Steve, you said Ryan Day is a great coach.
I didn't say he's a great coach,
Yeah,
but I said he's
Not going there.
proven. I said he's proven that he deserves to stay at Ohio State based on his performance this year. I didn't say he's a great coach, but his job is now safe.
I disagree. I say Notre Dame comes in, waxes OSU, and Ryan Day is out the next day because it is championship or bust for him. I'm going to say this right now. It doesn't matter how far you go with your team. If you're on the hot seat, even if you go to the national championship and you win, you're still in the hot seat no matter what, because they want to know what you can do the year after. Ryan is not safe. And he
TJ,
knows
you want a
that.
hot
So
take?
he's going to try to do something. I don't want a hot take right now.
I think
You
Ryan
were
Day
late.
gets
Fuck you,
fired
Adam.
if he wins. I think Ryan Day gets fired if he wins.
Exactly. Win, lose, or draw, he's going to get fired.
Still can't beat Michigan.
Still can't beat Michigan. And the thing is, with this game, Marcus Freeman's going to show him what a good coach is. So I'm going to take Notre Dame on this one. I'm going to take the under, though. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm going to take the under, but I have Notre Dame winning this game. And I'm going to say it right now. OSU fans were too excited about this game. I think they're going to come in hot-headed because they beat Texas. They beat the team that everybody projected to win after Oregon went down. So if OSU's coming in, like I said before, like Texas was, big dick energy, but coming in with 2-inch wieners, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, now, but Ben, before you give yours, Steve, I think I may have cut you off. Actually, did you give your prediction? Are you calling? Are you saying Notre Dame's going to win outright, or are you just saying?
I'm just, this 8.5 is bothering me is the issue.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where they're coming up with this number, because I don't think it's going to be that wide of a. I think it's going to be a probably a field goal or a touchdown.
Okay.
So it's not going to be an 8.5. I mean, if it's anybody that's 8.5, it's going to be Notre Dame, pulling away.
So do you think who are you picking in a close game here?
I'm picking Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Okay, Ben,
Yeah.
how about you? What are your thoughts?
Why do you guys do this to me? I have to go on a limb and make the weird call. Look, my luck when it comes to what I want to have happen in football this year is about as crappy as anything in the world.
That's why I don't bet. That's right.
So with that in mind, I'm going to go with the luck of me. So Ohio State's going to win this stupid thing. Like, I'm cheering for Notre Dame. I want Notre Dame to win. I think Notre Dame should win. But I'm going to pick Ohio State to somehow try and reverse that energy for myself here. And guys, here's the deal. I think that Notre Dame is overall the better team right now. I think they are better coached. But I think that Ohio State is going to win this game mostly just to spite me. Not me directly. But people like me. It's not – they don't care about me. I know that. But, like, people like me. We're going to get screwed in this one. Having to watch these idiots win a championship again. And it's just frustrating as all go. It's the only thing that'd be worse is if we get a Chiefs and Eagles Super Bowl. Like, that's the only thing worse I can think of right now than Ohio State winning, which is probably going to happen. So – I don't know, guys. I'm going to pick Ohio State just because I've got to put some bad juju on those guys.
Because you want to hear them scream OH all the way up in Wisconsin?
Dude, I'm telling you right now, like, their demented attempt at the YMCA. Shut up, idiots.
Hey, really quick before I looked, Ohio State Open is a 10-point favorite.
Oh, yeah.
That was a
10-point favorite.
Agreed.
I will say this: bet the over. I'm taking that over hard. That over's gonna hit all day long, but I think it's gonna be Ohio State winning that game. But Notre Dame does cover.
Okay. All right. Let's Adam, you want to I know you're not the college guy. Do you want to put your 2 cents in here on the prediction
I've
for
said
the
it.
game?
I've said it throughout the playoffs. Ohio State has seemingly seemed like they are the best team in the playoffs this season. I'm going to go with Ohio State, but from everything I hear about Ryan Day, I don't think he's a good coach, and I haven't watched enough of him to do so. So my hot take is Ryan Day gets fired. Prediction, Ohio State beats Notre Dame, but I'm taking Notre Dame to cover. There should be no way Ohio State should open up a 10. What's the line now? 8.5?
8.5.
That is egregious. I will easily take Notre Dame by 8.5 to cover that. I think this is going to be a much closer contested game than people think.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then, gentlemen, shall we? And Steve, I'll start with you here again. And I'm not trying to rub it in here because, of course, the team Ben and I cheer for also lost. But we got the playoffs this week for the wild card round in the NFL. We'll talk about the first game. Pittsburgh. Well, it wasn't actually the first game of the weekend, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Correct.
It was
I'm
that much of a thrashing. Aaron can't remember the other team.
Yeah. I know. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Baltimore, 28-14. What were your thoughts on the game?
What was my thoughts?
Yeah.
My thoughts is that nobody.
There are no FCC rules here, by the way.
I'm not going to swear, but
you know what? Let it loose.
This was an utter disaster. I mean, we talk about great disasters in NFL history. There's now words coming out from a reliable reporter for the Steelers that basically Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson have not really been on good terms all season, and they've just been making it look neat.
Surprise.
Yeah, that Smith was pushing for Fields all season, and he had to just work with Russell. And then George Pickens after the game, when basically talking about effort or whatever the heck he talked about, and he's like, "Nah," and it's like, what is this? They show this glitzy thing on with Tomlin on the Hard Knocks about like, let's have accountability, let's do all this stuff, and then you've got offensive coordinators and quarterbacks that can't seem to be on the same frequency. You got George Pickens, you've got the defense saying there's some skunk in the room that they don't want to call out, but somebody's causing them not to. I'm like, what do we got going on here? And once again, they asked Tomlin about this is now, find the video, folks, if you can. It is now becoming an annual tradition in Tomlin's exit press conference with the media, where someone from the media will bring up his contract or his negotiate something. As soon as they bring it up, he looks at the media and walks out of the room. Will not address it. Literally ends the end of the year press conference on that question. Like, it's egregious that you can't ask a guy about like, well, you haven't had a losing season, but when the chips are on the line, you don't know where to go. I mean, it's loss after loss after loss after loss after loss, and every year, we found the missing pieces. We found what we're supposed to do to make it happen. I will be honest with all of you. When we beginning of the season, everyone's like, it's a transition year. We're bringing these guys in. So to make the playoffs, okay. Mm-hmm. But the issue is you made the playoffs. You're one of 7 teams that made the playoffs. And then you go out there and basically are like, season's over. Baltimore's going to win. There's nothing we can do. And basically their play reflected that.
If the Steelers ever found a good offensive coordinator, oops, did I say that?
Here's the thing. Once again, I think Arthur Smith, some of the things he did, look at the plays with Fields versus the plays with Wilson. When Fields was in there was some really cool things going on that he was able to experiment with because Fields fits Smith's offense better.
Fields runs.
But the problem is that someone said you gotta put Russell in there, even though Fields is doing really well. You gotta put Russell in there.
Yeah, 40 some odd million reasons to put Wilson in, or whatever his contract is.
Exactly, and trust me, there's the list of free agents, which is not short for the Steelers, and everyone's like, who's going to re-sign? And there's more than one person saying Russell Wilson is coming back, and I'm like, that guy better be on the next train because, as I said, the same sports writer, and I'll end with this, the same sports writer that talked about the room said, doesn't this look like it did when Sean Payton and Russell Wilson had their problems?
Well, go back to Seattle. I mean, that's how it was when he and Pete Carroll finally had their falling out. So, thanks, by the way. Thank you to Joe there. We appreciate you watching, buddy. Okay, so let's Ben, I'm going to go over to you. and then I'll touch on each, or I'll ask each one of you to kind of give me your thoughts on just the overall weekend. But for now, it's time for the Packers segment where we vent. What were your?
Someone put the tracker down.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Go
Tracker
there,
going.
I want to touch on the Steelers for a second. The Ravens game.
Yeah.
So I've heard our friend Troy likes to point out that he sees Lamar Jackson as a running back. But I think this year has been, of all the years, a chance to really see what he can do with a proper running game.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Lamar Jackson threw for 41 touchdowns this year and 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
That's a quarterback,
crazy.
dude.
That's crazy.
That is
And-
very much a
MVP.
quarterback.
And with what wide receivers? I mean, look at the wide receiving group in that. Rashad Bateman was dead for half the year, felt like, and finally resurged in the second half. Zay Flowers has been injured off and on.
Yep.
Deontay Johnson, the floating cancer of the league right now, came in for a little while and tried to screw things up. Mark Andrews spent half the season trying to get himself right and had a good second half of the year. But overall, Derrick Henry, for me, could be the MVP of this playoff regardless, because he just ran all over, even if they have issues, a good front seven for the Steelers defense.
One of the
Made them
better
look
run
useless.
defenses in the NFL. Yeah.
He made them
All
look useless.
hail the king.
So, to Steve, I'm not trying to pile on you. I'm actually going to your side here for a second. To me, I want to remind Steelers fans something here that's important. I'm going to say a few names. I want you to think about this. Marvin Lewis and Lovie Smith.
Yep.
2 teams that had coaches that could still win games, didn't get done at the level they want to get done at. They got rid of them, and both those teams faced extended periods of completely horrible football.
Yeah.
So, Steelers Nation, be careful what you wish for.
Yep.
A lot of us would kill to have Mike Tomlin as our head coach. I
I'll trade
understand
you
that there's
Vrabel for
pain there.
Tomlin.
And look, in our private chats, I went back and forth with Combs a little about this too. I would rather be relevant every single year and have hope than be in the basement sitting there like, man, are we going to suck this year?
Yep.
That feeling is miserable. As a Brewers fan, I've lived that. I haven't had to for the last decade plus, but for a long time I did. As a Bucks fan, I did. So I don't want to feel that with my football team.
Yep.
And I haven't had to for a very long time. In
I've
Steelers Nation, I'm encouraging you, despite my dislike for you, to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to throw in there, because I think that Tomlin still is a good head coach.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Tomlin
Yeah,
is still a good fit for Pittsburgh, no less.
Yep.
If you do want to get a Tomlin, I know Mike McCarthy will drive there right now and gladly come back home.
Yep.
But I'm telling you right now,
and to Steve's point too, when he mentioned how it was supposed to be a transition year, and then they made the playoffs. Not only did they make the playoffs, but don't forget, until their slide to end the year, they were challenging Baltimore for the division.
Yep.
I mean, so it
100%.
wasn't just, hey, we snuck into the wild card for until the last month, and I realized that December's a bad time to go into the tank, but for the better part of the year, they were right up there with. I mean, in fact, I think at one point they were even in front of Baltimore after
Yeah,
they
they
beat
were.
they were.
So
Yeah.
he had them in a position that nobody expected. Okay, Ben. Now let's talk about the Packers.
Arthur
Yeah.
Smith isn't any better than Matt Canada.
Yeah. Well,
No.
and one last thing, they took advantage, as we talked about way back at the beginning of the year. They took advantage of the easy part of the schedule to
Yep.
put themselves in position to make the playoffs when they hit that gauntlet at the end of the year, which unfortunately they just tanked. So that's
I
it.
told you so. Also, by the way,
Yeah.
Look, the Packer game. Look, I was wrong, and I'm okay with saying that. I thought we'd go in that game and play better. We did the same dang things we did the last few weeks. Made mistakes early and often, and then tried to fix it way too late in the game. And this one, the injuries absolutely destroyed us. And this is where I want to point out to everybody the importance of a great left guard and the change it can make in an entire game. We have 4 holding penalties on our backups trying to cover for Elton Jenkins in that left guard spot that killed drives that could have put us back in that game. The Eagles did not play well. They just played better than we did. We played terribly. They did not play well. And it's crazy to think that Jordan Love can throw that many interceptions and still have a better game than Jalen Hurts overall. Like, I'm just saying it right now. The Eagles, to me, are still fool's gold. They're still not that good. and they're about to get run. The Rams proved me wrong. That's one that I'll say again I was wrong on. If the Rams, I said before the season, would be a bad team, they're way better than I thought they'd be. Credit to Sean McVay, credit to that team.
Yeah.
But it started off with the first play, and I looked at my friends and family over to watch the game. I looked at them and said, well, I've seen this before. I know this one ends. With the first one being that fumble, like Keyshawn Nixon has the ball in his hands on the ground with contact on him, and they gave Philadelphia the ball. I'm not saying the refs cost us the game. We cost us the game. But that set the tone for our team not being mentally there the rest of the way. Yeah. Jaden Reed fumbling the ball when he finally gets his hands on it set that tone for that offense where it became another problem. It's frustrating, but I still have to laugh because our loss hurt me less than it gave joy to certain Bears, Vikings, and Lions fans. You guys want to be happy that we lost? Man, I'm happy for you. Proud of you guys. One of my friends messaged me, Bears are 2-0 in 2025, and you guys are 0-2. I'm like, okay, proud of you. I mean, look, am I disappointed? Yeah, I'm disappointed. But we still have the youngest team in the NFL, and our core is back in spades next year and hopefully healthy. Yeah. So, look, go Pack, go. Packers till I died. Screw the Eagles, screw the Rams. And, oh, well, what can I say? The Packers lost that game.
Yeah, I guess I'll say this. I went into that game more pessimistic than you did, Ben. I know just from all of our predictions on last Wednesday's show. I really, and because of that, it wasn't that. It wasn't as hard to stomach as it has been in the past when we've lost. So I just, the way they were playing the last couple of weeks, and I know everybody kept saying with the Bears loss that, oh, well, it's just that's nothing. They weren't really focused on that game. And I was like, no, I think they were, and I think there's a problem here. Yeah. And because of that, that's why I really wasn't expecting a whole heck of a lot. And then when it started out the way it did, and I just, again, the injuries. I will say this: Elton Jenkins going down was probably the worst one, and of course that happened right away. Everyone wanted to make a big deal about Romeo Doubs going down, and then Reed separating his shoulder, and those were a big deal. But that wasn't until the second half, and we put up a goose egg in the first half. Like we were garbage in the first half. Mm-hmm. So at least offensively. Defensively, I will say this: the one thing that surprised me is I thought if anything was going to cost us this game, it would be not being able to outscore Philadelphia because our defense wouldn't be able to stop them. And that I was totally wrong on that. I mean, Hafley had that team ready to play defense, and I can't remember who the hell it is. He's a former coach, maybe even coached the Baltimore Ravens, I think, in the past.
Brian Billick.
Yes, Brian Billick. I believe it was. He was doing some analysis like a day or two after the game, and he was talking about how people were saying that Jalen Hurts, just isn't that good, or he's rusty or whatever. And he was showing like using the all 22 or whatever video it was to show a lot of the plays. And his comment was, I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts was as rusty or if it was the fact that he just didn't have any guys open because the Packers were doing that good of a job, which was impressive since we didn't have Ja. He was out automatic, and that, there were a couple other injuries to our defense too. But so, props to Hafley. I will say I'm glad the Vikings lost because that made our loss that much easier to swallow because I don't have to deal with the Vikings fans for the next week. But like I said, I wasn't expecting much, which, and some people on Facebook will be like, well, you just suck as a fan. You're not a true fan. I'm like, I'm just realistic. There's something wrong with that. And I didn't feel confident going into the game because of that, So anyway, okay. So now TJ, let's go to you. why don't you give us just your overall opinion of Wild Card Weekend? What game was there? A game that stood out to you more than any other?
I don't really think there were any games that stood out the most to me. I think the Chargers probably should have played a little bit better, but Houston showed up, which was I was a little happy with that. So I have at least something to root for in the playoffs, but that probably end this week.
Now,
the Ravens game.
I will say this. Sorry to interrupt you, but since you brought that game up, my daughter had a basketball tournament, so we weren't I wasn't able to watch that one. Would you blame that more on poor performance by the Chargers and Justin Herbert? Because I've heard a lot of people criticizing him this week, or was it more of Houston just showing up better than they have the last month or so?
I think it's a 50-50 of both because I think Houston showed up because they knew what was at stake, but I also think Justin Herbert really shit the bed. I mean, dude had 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
He needs to take, a chapter out of Jameis Winston and ask the football guys to stop getting pick sixes. I mean, it was bad. And I think, everybody was so on the hype train with the Chargers, with Harbaugh coming in. They were bringing in a bunch of guys. I almost wanted to call that place the retirement home because they were bringing in like Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. It's actually Ravens West. I mean, a bunch of Ravens were over there. It to me, I don't feel like the Chargers fully clicked that game. And like I said, I'm happy Houston won. I've got there's a little sprinkle of Texas in there, so I can root for something at least in the NFL now. But the Ravens game, I mean, I'm sorry, Steve, but they're called Schittsburg Squealers for a reason, man. And they squealed bad, real bad.
That's the first time I've ever heard them called that.
Really?
Well, you better write it down and learn it because that's what I will call them for the rest of the eternity that I'm alive. I honestly did. I think that
Steve's just shaking his head like, really?
Don't worry, just pile on. I mean, as I said, we're in a depression. I mean, it keeps snowing here in Pittsburgh. Nothing's going right for our sports teams. We're just in a really good mood in this city right now. Just telling
you guys really should just trade Paul Skeens while you're at it and make the whole thing complete.
Right. The amount of prospects you can get for Skeens would be insane.
But no, just the Ravens game alone. Literally, I think the Pittsburgh game. I think everybody knew. Yeah, there was a sliver of hope for Steelers to at least do something, but the Ravens are very rough playing at home. That's a hard place to even go into to play a playoff game and win. The only person to do it was Kansas City, but they also had the refs with them, so that's neither here nor there. Now we go to the Eagles-Packers game.
Really?
And I will say this right now. Yes, the Packers lost, but I think the Packers won because of the idiot that was in the stands.
Yeah.
I will say this right now. I've said this from the get-go.
Oh, what a moron.
Eagles fans are the worst fans. The Link is the worst stadium to go to. And now that this has been nationally put on the news, it'll show. Will it change? Hell no. You ain't going to put, thousands of cops in these stands to show somebody, somebody says something to somebody. You're not going to stop it. No. But what this shows is how Eagles fans really are. There are some good Eagles fans. I know a couple of them myself. Mm-hmm. There are very good Eagles fans that will lose, and win with dignity. A guy like that, I'm sorry. If my wife and I were at that game and he said something, I don't care if I get cold cocked by somebody else. I'm throwing the first punch. I'm knocking his ass out and let me get jumped by his boys because there's a video of him saying something to my girl. That I'm sorry. The Eagles lost all my respect. I hope they just get trounced this week by the Rams.
Yeah.
Credit to the Eagles organization, though, for their follow-up on that.
Yes.
I respect that. I still hate the Eagles, but I respect that they took the action they did and made things right with both the Packers fan and banning that jackass in the stands. I mean, it's inexcusable. why anyone thinks it's okay to speak to another human being that way. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
I saw clips of the story, just like little snippets. What actually happened? Just like
he called. So they were. I think this was like they were reviewing a play or something. They said it was, it was on the 1 yard line. It wasn't a touchdown or something like that. And the guy looks at her and goes, "Yeah, 1 yard line. Sit down, shut the fuck up." And he, I guess before the guy started recording, the guy called his girl an ugly dumb cunt.
Yeah.
And so he got really peeved at that. Yeah, no, recorded it. So then the dude kept chirping. And then he was like, you have no right to call her that. And the guy's like, sit down and shut the fuck up. He's like, okay, cool. And the guy's like, cool, you want to do something? Swing. Again, my hotheadness. Okay, swing. That's my invitation. You're getting cold cocked no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
That's sad. Yep. Good thing they banned him. It was a lifetime ban, right?
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the
And he
Eagles
got fired
organization for doing
from
that.
his job.
Yeah, and he got fired from his job.
So I'll tell you this, though, too. One thing
The hospitality industry.
Yeah.
That's everywhere. But look, I've been to a number of stadiums, and I'll tell you this. Like, Packers fans, I saw it with some Saints fans as well. We self-police pretty well. Like, if someone's acting out, we'll step in and say, hey, shut up. Like, you're out of line. Stop.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, my problem with Eagles fans. There's not, even though there are good Eagles fans, they don't have the balls to stand up to their own fellow fans to stop the bad behavior. It shouldn't take police. It should be a community effort. And I'll give Pittsburgh that same kind of credit. Pittsburgh will do the same thing. If you got an idiot in the stands in Pittsburgh, they're going to tell you to sit down, shut up, and drink your beer and watch the game. Like, a decent fan base does that. And Philadelphia is just not that fan base. They're idiots, and they don't know how to self-regulate. So it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this. For the rest of the playoffs, the only game that surprised me was the Tampa Bay game. I will not lie. The doink heard around the world.
Hey, Bears, that's how you doink, by the way.
That is how you doink.
Yeah.
That's how you doink good. But, being in the DMV area, it's just high hopes and cheers everywhere. Commanders won. That's awesome. Ravens won. That's awesome. Now it gets to this week, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's very somber in DC right now. They know that they're about to just get trounced. And a lot of people are saying it. I mean, God. It was so happy on Monday. And then we get to Wednesday, and all sports talk's like, yeah, now we got to go to Detroit. Damn, we got to go to Detroit. Yeah, you got to go to Detroit. You got to go to the number 1 seed. You got to go play them. Man, I tell you, I feel bad for him.
Do you really? So I want to say this. The Commanders have a fighter's chance. Yeah, they feel like the Giants did when they came into Lambeau and beat us in that stupid Sub-Zero game. Yeah. The Commanders have some really weird energy right now. And Jaden Daniels is maybe part of that, the lack of a cloud called Dan Snyder being in the building and over the franchise. Whatever it is, the Commanders have something going right now that is pretty cool. And I'm not picking the Commanders, to be very clear, this week, but I am giving them a chance. I'm not hardline betting the Lions, even though I do believe the Lions go to the Super Bowl. I still think that the Commanders have a good chance to upset a lot of brackets for the playoffs this year because they have a weird mojo going for them. And if they can get the right matchup, and frankly, the Rams or the Eagles are good matchups for the Commanders right now. It could be on.
Yeah.
Like it's not that crazy.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay. Charles, how about you? What were your thoughts on anything catch your eye? Did you get a chance to watch the Bills Broncos game?
I did. I watched most of that. The only game that I didn't watch any of was the Rams game.
Okay.
I really didn't have much interest, and we just got Sonic 3, so I told the boys that I would watch that with them. So we watched Sonic 3. Pretty cool. I like Keanu being in the Sonic movies. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like a better way to spend your Monday night watching Sonic than a game that's played at a neutral site.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't miss much on that game. Overall, I mean, it wasn't as I watched the other games, at least most of the other games. The Washington game was very exciting. The end that was pretty awesome. I was sitting there. I really thought he missed it. The way that ball was flying to the right, I was just like, oh my God, he just missed it. And then whoop, right in. And I felt so good. I felt so good for the Commanders and for that franchise. I have a very, very good, like, lifelong friend of mine who, gosh, she might have been my first ever girlfriend, to be honest with you. But she lives up there and is a huge Commanders fan. And so, I have a soft spot for them. So I was pulling for them. So that was pretty exciting. I loved watching Baltimore do what they do. Of watching the king be the king. They're just going to keep running all the way to the Super Bowl. I think we all expected that out. I think most of us expected that outcome. I mean, let's face it. The Steelers are a middle tier playoff team. That's all they are. They didn't upgrade in offense with their coordinator at all. Arthur Smith is no better than Matt Canada. Neither one of those guys know how to use the players that they have on the field. You say whatever about him or Russell Wilson. I'm telling you right now, from living down here in Atlanta, Arthur Smith is the fucking problem with that offense. I've seen it. Okay, I can fucking show you tons and tons of games from the last few seasons for the Falcons that'll prove that theory. So, so I was expected. At the Chargers, they did surprise me. But hey, man, if I was a Chargers fan, I'd still be pretty satisfied with the season. You went through a whole regime change. Yep. You're kind of in a mini rebuild, so to speak. You have this coach who we all know wants to run the ball, slow down, the tempo of the game, just run the ball and kind of control the game like that. Yet you don't have Austin Eckler anymore. Your running back room doesn't have a true identity. I mean, you've got some guys that none of which are a true RB1, but somehow you still made it there. And you know what? Your quarterback had a bad day. He literally basically matched his picks for the entire season in one game. It fucking happens. But I think for the Chargers, I think the future is bright. There's some holes to fill. They've got a good coach who I think will have pretty good draft and have a pretty good free agency, and they'll go from there. So, while I hate seeing Houston win, and I was shocked to see them dismantle Herbert like that, I put it more on him just having a bad game. It happens. Houston's about to get their ass whooped in the next round. And if they don't, they definitely won't win. The refs will make sure of that. So I'm not worried about having to see them move any further. I'm confident that the NFL will not let them win the next game. But for me, the most entertaining thing about this weekend was wide receivers continuing to be divas. I love this. It's so nonsensical. It just blows my mind. You've got AJ sitting on the sideline reading a book, reading the next.
That's now novel, blown up overnight, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got Deontay fucking shut your mouth Johnson, who can't shut his mouth and has now blown himself another contract with.
No, he is not
in one season, and maybe has ran his mouth right out of the NFL at this point. Who's going to sign that trash talker?
Charles, breaking news. Deontay Johnson returns to Ravens on a waivers claim.
Did he really?
He won't play. He won't play, and he'll bitch about it. The only reason he is there is in case Flowers can't go. And even so,
he can't play.
He'll be dropped the next day. I'm telling you right now, dude. This guy, you're in the locker room bitching while your team is celebrating a victory. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yep.
What a waste of talent and what a piss poor attitude.
That's right. He can't. You're right. He can't play in the playoffs, but he's back on the Ravens.
Yeah, he's there. Again, practice squad. I mean, you got to
play for the Ravens. He can't play for the Ravens
like veterans
in
on
the
their practice squad. So
now, why? Explain to me why he can't play for the.
One of the reports I saw showed that it was a transactional thing. He's done for the year, I think. I think I'd have to really go relook at it. But
Right.
to me, that's what I heard.
Yeah, the move takes place the day after the Super Bowl, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent. Basically, the Ravens can get a compensatory pick if he gets signed in free agency by another team.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Okay.
They're just
So they did it for
using
the
him.
pick again.
Yeah, they're using him. That's all. That's all they're doing. It's,
Well, that's
he
fine.
don't have
Yeah,
any
they did it for the
intentions of
pick
playing
again.
him.
Hey, there
Nobody's
you go.
going to sign him though. Like, I mean, I'm sure somebody will. Oakland may sign him, or Vegas may sign him. But
yeah.
I mean, that was the most entertaining part of the whole playoffs for me this weekend. The games weren't that great. I mean, other than the doink, the games weren't that exciting. I was disappointed to see Green Bay lose. I was rooting for them. I think if they hadn't have lost their entire receiving core, they might have been able to do something, but it's kind of hard to move the ball if you lose all of your receivers. So, I think that's a shame. I don't think the Eagles are going to go much farther anyhow, though. So that was a little disappointing, but overall, I mean, I was really glad to see the Ravens beat the shit out of the Steelers. I always liked that. Steelers couldn't figure out a way to get their best player, Boswell, the ball enough, so they couldn't win. But other than that, man, just kind of a ho-hum.
Charlie is spicy tonight.
Poor Steve, man. All right, Adam, what were your?
Boswell is their best
I'm not
weapon,
gonna. All right,
okay?
Steve. I'm not. I'm not gonna shit on the Steelers. Okay, I'm not gonna shit on the Steelers.
This is the week to do it.
Already ran out of toilet
I'm
paper.
a Mike Tomlin fan. Why would I shit on Tomlin and the Steelers? It's not his fault that they want to play Russ over the better quarterback in Justin Fields. Oops, did I say that? At least at this point in their career.
It's Arthur Smith's fault.
Look, this weekend was extremely weird. It was wild card wide receiver weekend. Wide receivers that have not shown up all season deciding they wanted to have a game. Diami Brown, Curtis Samuel, whoever else decided they wanted to show up this weekend. Look, it was pretty much a weekend that was expected, with the exception of the Commanders over the Bucks, and for me, the Chargers over the Texans. It pretty much went as expected. Now we get to the fun divisional games. And is this where we're going next, Aaron?
Yeah. Let's we can go on into it. Why don't we but
Can I please give my upset of the weekend?
Sure, go for it.
Fuck you, Chiefs. Texans go into Arrowhead on your 3 fucking weeks of rest because you all got hairs across your asses about playing your players for a couple weeks. Enjoy fucking sitting on the couch. Texans 20, Kansas City 17.
Wow. See now, I will say this. In a close game, my money goes to the referees and the Chiefs. So I almost feel like we need more the Texans need to give themselves more cushion, I guess is my point. Like you need to win by 10 or 14 points. But okay, but let's go right to the games here. So you already gave your pick. Texas and Chiefs are the first.
In all seriousness, I do think Kansas City wins. That's who I've gone with. I do think Kansas City wins.
Well, they're favored by 8.5 with a 41.5 point over under. So would you take the Texans?
By how much?
Point? 8.5.
I'm taking Texans on points. You have a Kansas City offense and defense coming off a 3-week layoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Texans just played last week. Yes, the Texans are massively injured. This Texans defense isn't terrible. They're a good young defense.
Yeah. And
that Kansas City offense, I'm sorry, I don't think has figured it out. I do think the Chiefs win, but I don't think it's by 8.5. But if we're back on here next week and you go, Adam, you were right, Texans won because of the 3-week layoff. We've seen this how many times with these bye week teams that give their teams week 18 the bye and then come back. That's 3 weeks of no physical football.
Yep.
Yeah, your bodies get used to rest.
I've always felt that. I mean, at least start them and let them play for one half of that last regular season game before or something. But and I get you don't want to get have an injury, but it's like, are you gonna can you play football in fear? You know, it's like when you have a player that's coming off an injury and they're worried about re-injuring that. You know, chances are they end up, you know, getting injured again or whatever. Okay, Ben, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I'm taking the Chiefs. I think that I'll take the Texans with the points, but this to me spells 2027. That's how I'm feeling right now. I think that's going to be the trend continues. We talked about before. The refs are going to help Kansas City. It's inevitable. The Texans are too beat up. If you had Tank Dell, if you had everything all looking the way it should be, this is a fun game. I think the Texans do jump out on them early, but the Chiefs wake up, and I can even see a 14-0 lead for the Texans in this game. To be blown to lose 27-20, that wouldn't shock me one bit.
Okay, Steve, what were your thoughts on this one?
It's funny how I'm the guy that follows the officials more than most of you. When they announced the officials for this game, Clay Martin got announced as the referee. The immediate headlines, Chiefs versus Texans referee gives KC massive advantage. Referee trend heavily favors Chiefs. Chiefs review favorable referee selection. So I want the Texans to win, but unfortunately, I think we're going to see red shaded stripes this weekend. I'm looking 24-17 Chiefs.
Okay, so you think they'll at least Texans will at least cover.
They're going to cover, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go on. When Charles gets back, I'll ask him for his prediction for this one, but let's keep going since I know Ben's got to get out of here too. And Commanders at Lions is the second game on Saturday. So both of these games are on Saturday. Commanders at Lions 9.5-point favorites. It's interesting the differential between these two games in terms of over and under. Over and under for the first one was 41.5. This one 55.5. Yeah. Ben, let's start with you. Are you? What are you thinking here?
I'm taking the under on this one. I am taking the Lions to win, but the Commanders still to cover that one. 9.5 in a playoff game is rough. That's a tough one to bet. Look, in reality, this Lions team does one of two things: they win by a last-minute score, or they smoke you. Yep. There's no middle ground. There's no 10-point win for them. They either demolish you or they're going to skirt by you. So I think this one, like I said before, I give the Commanders a fighting chance. I think they have a way about them right now that says they're going to be competitive. David Montgomery supposed to be back for the Lions is going to be a big factor here as well.
Yep.
That Ford Field's going to be rocking. It's going to be a lot of bitten kneecaps, but I do think that this ends up in the Lions' favor. But I think they're going to have legitimate fear in the hearts of Lions fans during this game.
Okay, Charles, since you just got back, we just did obviously the first game, the Texans Chiefs. What's your prediction? Chiefs are favored by 8.5. Over under is 41.5. What are you thinking for that one?
Yeah, I'm with everybody else. The refs are going to make sure that the Chiefs win this game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game though. I see it somewhere like 21-10 Chiefs.
Okay. And then since the game that we're on is the second game on Saturday, which is Detroit 9.5-point favorite, 55.5-point over under over the Commanders here. What are your thoughts on that one?
Man, I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. I think Ben touched on it earlier. That Washington's on a high right now. They've got stuff just is going their way. And I think that in part is going to help them stay competitive on this game. But, I mean, let's just face it. Detroit is really, really good. And I think we've got Sonic and Knuckles in this game.
Yep. Supposedly that's the case.
Yeah, so that's going to make a difference. They're getting Montgomery back. That's a huge piece of their offense. That opens up Gibbs even more because I honestly think Gibbs is better when he is – got help. I know great things when he's in there as their number one back, but Montgomery is their number one back, and Gibbs does better when he's that guy who can be focused just more in the passing game than in the run game. It opens him up a little bit more, opens that offense up a lot more, and Montgomery's a bruiser. Gibbs is not. It makes a big difference. So Detroit, they're gonna do it. I think it'll be close for a while, but I still think Detroit ends up winning probably by like at least 10 points. I do think this will be a fun, high-scoring game, though. Probably somewhere, you're looking at maybe like a 35-28 kind of game, 35-24 kind of game. It'll be a good one.
Okay, Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm feeling what everybody else is feeling. I know how much we love boxing here in Dads with Bacon, but this is what I'm imagining. You've got the Lions is like the heavyweight boxer. It's not he's not the champion, but he's one of the contenders. You've got this scrappy fighter, the Commanders, that are coming in. One of two things is going to happen. It's either going to be a first round knockout, and the Lions are just going to come out and they're just going to put the pedal down, and it's going to be, go. Or Daniels, especially Daniels, but the whole Commanders team is going to be like, hold on a second here. Like, we got a shot here. I think Lions are hungry for a good playoff game finally in Detroit, and I think they're going to get it this weekend. I'm thinking right about there with the score 35-24, 35-27, somewhere in that range. I think it's going to be, Daniels is going to have a chance to show off his arm. Goff's going to, have his targets. Running games are going to do their thing. Defense, it's just going to be the game that you're going to want to sit down and hopefully, the Commanders are going to put up another performance just like last week. It may not come out their way, but I think Dan Quinn should be very proud of this season. There's a lot of positivity happening in Washington with this franchise and this playoff run. Even if it ends this week, this has been a fantastic season for the Commanders.
Absolutely. All right, Adam, what are your thoughts on this one?
Do you really have to ask the guy with the Lions logo?
Yes, I will. Okay, well, we all know who you think is going to win. Do you think it's going to be a blowout? Which Lions team is going to show up?
Yeah, the Lions are going to come out. They're going to curb stomp the bleep out of the Commanders. They're going to send them back to the kiddie corner where they belong. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the easy victory as we absolutely destroy you 40-7.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Sunday's games. We have, let's see here. First game at 2 p.m. Eastern is Rams at the Eagles. Eagles are 6-point favorites, 43.5 over under. Adam, will come back with you here. I don't know. I mean, personally, that 6 points seems kind of like a lot.
That is a lot considering what the Rams just put the Vikings through.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
That's not as egregious as Ohio State being favored by 10 at the opening line, or now sitting at 8.5. But 6 is, I feel like 6 isn't giving the Rams the respect they deserve on offense.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to tell me it's 3.5, that's making me think, because I do think it comes down to maybe a field goal, maybe 4 points. I'd put the line at 3.5 and give the Rams a bit more respect.
Yeah.
But at 6, I don't know where I'd put the line. If you had to ask me now, I'd still put it with the Eagles. And by the way, Commanders, congratulations. You had an amazing season. You massively overachieved. You have your generational quarterback in Jaden Daniels. I said he was the best quarterback coming out of the draft. I was right. He's amazing. He's proved that his last year at LSU was not a fluke. He's proved he's taken the leap just like Burrow did his last year at LSU. They took the leap. They've made their way into elite level quarterbacks. This game is probably the tightest of the weekend. Not the best game to watch. I think it's going to be the closest consistent game the entire weekend. I think they're going to go back and forth. I think Puka's going to be contained. Kupp's going to need to step up in the slot. And with Higbee going down last week, I think you're going to see a bit more of Hunter Long and Davis Allen. You're going to see a bit more of them. Kyron, this is really tough just because you're going up against arguably the best run defense left in the playoffs. Up there with the Chiefs, up there with the Ravens. I don't see the Rams winning this. The Eagles are the most balanced team left in the playoffs. I think the Rams keep it tight. I think the Eagles pull this off. I Don't think it's by 6, though. Give me it by like 4. But the Eagles go on to meet the Lions in the NFC Championship.
All right, Ben, how about you? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm similar here. I think that overall, I'm actually picking the Rams, though. I think this is going to be a very close game. There's usually some crappy games divisional weekend. Usually kind of have teams kind of find their rhythm. There's 1 or 2 blowouts. But I think this is going to be one of the tighter ones overall for us.
Yep.
I've said a million times at this point, the Eagles are fool's gold. I don't trust them. And I think the Rams and Matt Stafford kind of want to find that magic to try and push themselves here to the next one. And this game to me is inconsequential because I believe the winner of the Detroit-Washington game wins the NFC regardless. This game is for a chance to lose in the championship game. And I think the Rams squeak by on it.
Okay. Charles, how about you?
Sorry, I was a little distracted by this hockey game going on right now.
I'm playing
Wow,
Minecraft.
this Minnesota-Edmonton game is a very, very good one, and Nurse just scored and then just completely took Gustafson right out. I mean, just plowed right into him.
I've been off and on playing Minecraft. You're good.
I agree a little bit with Adam that with the points and spread. I don't know if that's giving the Rams justice on offense. Though I know Kupp has been a little down, but that offense as a whole has been really good here as of late. And once Stafford, he's slinging the ball, like we've seen him do off and on in his career when he just has a really hot season. That's kind of what he looks like right now. I think they can win this game. I don't think they're going to, but I think they have a chance. I think this will be a close game. Not necessarily a high-scoring game, just because the defense on the other side is a really, really good defense. But I'd like to see the Rams. I'd like to see the Rams win this. I'm sure you guys would too.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen. But this is going to be like, I just get a feeling that it's just not going to be a high scoring game. And that's why the Rams, if it turns into a shootout, they're going to win, but I don't think it will. So I think it's going to be more like a 21-17 game there. So, but we'll see. I'm going to be pulling for the Rams. So,
And before I go to you and your take, I've heard all three of you guys kind of mention about the Rams offense and what they could do. I think, and obviously, yes, having Puka Nacua, having Cooper Kupp and Stafford, all the attention goes to the Rams offense. Yep. But I think people are overlooking the fact that their defense balled out against the Vikings on Monday night. And it'll be interesting to see how they do against this offensive line. Because, what do they have? 5 sacks in the first half on Darnold? Not that the Vikings have, the league's best offensive line, but they're certainly not as bad as the way they looked. And, I know I'm not going to pretend to be an expert here on the Rams because I don't watch them, but I know from watching Monday night's game, a lot of talk was on how well this young defense for the Rams has come together down the stretch, and especially their defensive line. So it'll be interesting to see. That might even be more the key than how Nacua does and how Cooper Kupp does and Stafford. So Steve, why don't you give your pick for this one?
Well, that you follow up right.
I steal your thunder?
You didn't steal, but that was super impressive on Monday night. It was just like every time you turned around, Darnold's on his back. You're like, what is going on? Like the Rams defense was stifling. It was impressive.
Jones didn't seem to get a whole hell of a lot. Anytime they handed off to him, he didn't seem to have a whole lot of space to run. So
at times they've been terrible though. That's the thing. I think that's why people sleep on them. At times that defense has been an absolute wreck.
But they're a young defense. They're learning, and that's the thing. The way they're saying that like the future Aaron Donald may be. I'm sitting there like, and I'm a very big Aaron Donald fan because he is from Pittsburgh, so I followed. And to hear folks mention some of those defenders in that same like Aaron Donald, like it's just like holy cow, like that's impressive. But there is something that is in play that they're not definitively certain it may happen on Sunday, but there is a chance of rain and or snow in Philadelphia. If the weather comes into play in this game, this tilts Eagles big time. I know LA's got this play for LA, and all the folks out there in LA, thoughts and prayers to all of you folks as you continue to deal with this horrific situation that you're dealing with. And, it's great to see, what Arizona did to step up to welcome you and basically make the stadium your stadium. I've heard so many stories about everything that Arizona did for them. So that's phenomenal, but it's going to be a great game if the weather doesn't become a factor, because I think that the Rams just can't handle. I don't think they're going to be able to handle if it gets into a slippery kind of situation. The other thing too, the other wild card in my mind, folks, is Jalen Hurts. He's back. But if you've got a defense playing like this, they kept laying Sam Darnold on his back. They're not going to lay him on his back that many times. But if they get to him a couple times, is he going to get rattled? Is something going to happen? Where do we go from there? Is Kenny Pickett healthy enough to be the backup, or are they going to go down the depth chart again? There are factors in this game that could swing either direction. Eagles are going to win. What's the line on the game again?
6.
It could be a touchdown. It could be a field goal. It could go either way. But I think the Rams will put up a great effort, but I think the Eagles are heading for the NFC Championship game.
Okay. All right. Last game. Ben, we'll start with you. Ravens Bills, obviously. Ravens 1.5 point favorites in Buffalo. 51.5 over under. What are your thoughts on this one?
I have the Bills winning, and it's hard for me to say that. I want the Ravens to win. I think that the Ravens have a really good, well put together team this year. At face value, this game's probably a coin flip, but I'm going to change it a little bit here because you're in Buffalo, and that does matter. Home field advantage does matter in the NFL, and there's still the hot hand matters, and how you're playing now matters. And I feel like the Bills have just been a little bit more consistent and on the uptick overall. And I think the Bills do come through in this one, unless they find a way to bill this game away. I think the Bills do get the win. 51.5, I think, was the over-under, I think, right?
Yep.
27-24 is not crazy. It really isn't in this game. Justin Tucker had some problems with field goals earlier in the year. God help me if he has to miss one at the end of regulation to try and put it overtime. But it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. I have the Bills win this game begrudgingly.
Okay. Steve, how about you?
Frigid temperatures, chance of snow. It's not a hindrance for Baltimore, but it's Buffalo's. They love playoff football when it's cold. And just like you folks up in Green Bay. When they get that cold and they get that snow, they're just like, holy cow.
Yep.
And I just, here's the thing. You've got two quarterbacks. I mean, this is going to be phenomenal. Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. You've got King Henry. You just got both sides putting these weapons out there. And there is going to be some interesting matchups on both sides of the ball for both teams. And that's what I think is going to be the curious factors, to see how they match up against each other, because this is one of those games where I think you've got teams that have matured through the entire season. As we said in our chat, though, Buffalo, they jettisoned, Diggs, gone. And they look like a better team without him. And that's going to be where do the chips fall? There is a chance the Ravens could pull the upset here. I wouldn't put it past them because, they are hot and they just look complete. But at the same time, You got Buffalo, you got the cold, and you've got Josh Allen, I think, that wants to show Lamar Jackson, yeah, you've been in the league. I've been in a little bit longer than you have, and it's time for Buffalo to get hopefully their redemption tour this year, although they probably will have to play the Chiefs to get there. I'm going to take Buffalo in a close one, 27-24, 31-27. We're going to go in that range because I think it's going to be high scoring, but I think it's going to be a Buffalo win in the end.
Okay. And I was going to say something now and in the thought left. So Charles, we're going to go to you. What are your thoughts on this one?
All right. So I think one thing that we're going to see is that line creep closer towards Baltimore's favor by the time we get to game time. I think we're just going to see more people starting to put money on them.
Well, they're favored by 1.5 already.
By one. So yeah, I think it'll be.
Or you think it'll be bigger?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that moves. So Baltimore's going to win this game. This is the bottom line. Baltimore has a better defense. They have a better running back, and they have a better quarterback. That's the way it is. They've got the tools to beat Buffalo. Buffalo is a great team. I picked Baltimore to go all the way to the Super Bowl for a reason. They have an awesome coach. They've got an awesome quarterback. They brought the one missing piece that they needed was bringing in an elite running back. That's all that they needed to make this team go. They have shown that, and they're going to continue on. They're going to continue on all the way to the Super Bowl. This is going to be a great game. This is the matchup we all want. This will be hopefully the most exciting game of the weekend. You said the line, it's at 51? I can't believe
51.5.
I can't believe this isn't like 62. Like, seriously, I not thinking for 1 second that these two teams are both going to be somewhere around 30 plus points, to me, is insane. They've been doing it most of the season. I mean, this is going to be a super exciting game, but I don't see any way for Buffalo to win this game. I know that Josh Allen has done some really awesome things. He's had some really cool moments and stuff, but Baltimore is an overall better team than Buffalo is, and they're going to show it this weekend.
Okay. Adam, how about you?
Welcome to the game of the weekend. This is the game that should be the AFC Championship if it wasn't for the way seeding fell.
It is.
The Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens. This is the game of the AFC. This is what we all wanted to see. Regardless of what team makes it out into the AFC Championship, winner of this game makes it to the Super Bowl. Kansas City or the Texans are going to get their faces stomped into the ground by one of these two teams. They are the two best teams in the NFL. Smash the over on this game. Charlie's right. How is this not over 60? These teams are going to put on an offensive clinic, and Josh Allen is going to do his best Patrick Mahomes. He is going to literally take this team on his back. He is going to carry them over the finish line the same way Mahomes won a Super Bowl last year against the Niners, taking the entire Kansas City offense on his back. Josh Allen will have one of those very, very special performances. This is going to be a career-defining game for him. Bills beat the Ravens 34-31.
All right. Well, here, let's before we wrap it up, and I know we were talking about maybe talking NHL. If you guys are you still up for that? I know, Ben, you had said you wanted to go. You need to go here pretty quick.
Unfortunately, guys. Yeah.
Otherwise, so why don't we save that for next week, because we'll have less football to talk about. We'll talk NHL.
We'll also have
way more coaching to talk about too.
Ben, now I was going to say, Ben, one thing I wanted to touch on, I was hoping TJ would be back, but I know his little one woke up, and so he had to help with that. If you have 1 second, the one thing I do want to talk about with the coaching carousel, and Ben, if you got to leave, go ahead. But I mean, Dion meets with, and I know, Ben, you're a big fan of Coach Prime. You're like his number one fan. What are your thoughts, real quick, on this? I mean, it got some run earlier in the week. People were saying, "Oh, this could be." I mean, that's why they let McCarthy go, basically, and we're like, you know, we're going to be done with it. Can you see Deion leaving Colorado to go, you know, to Dallas? And I mean, it would be entertaining. I don't think it would work, you know, in the long run. But what are your thoughts?
I can see it happening, but I think that Deion has his eyes on Florida State. I mean, Mike
Really?
Norvell's got a bullseye on his back right now, and I think that this is going to be, if there's another bad season and Colorado can be a bowl eligible team again, or in that top 25 conversation, I think that Florida State will bail on Norvell. It will be Deion taking prime time to Florida State and Tallahassee and try to make that relevant again. I think that's what his goal has been the whole time. I think that's where he wants to be. I think he wants to be the next Bobby Bowden in his own mind. So I think that Jerry could convince him. Make no mistake, Jerry could convince him. Sure. But for Cowboys fans' sake, for Prime's sake, I don't think it's the right decision. I think that Deion is better suited for the college football life. I think that we're making a mistake to leave Colorado right now. So no, I buy the possibility, but I doubt the reality of it happening. I'll say this: I think Dallas needs to pony up whatever Ben Johnson asked for. It won't happen there either. And then I think going down the list here of other candidates, I think that the Cowboys, if they're smart, which they're not, if they're smart, they're going to go get a guy like Halfley, a guy who's going to be that rising star, who's going to come in there and do the right thing for that team. But I don't think Jerry can handle having somebody who's going to have a strong personality and want to do it their way. Jerry wants it Jerry's way. And so I think look for bring Kellen Moore back. Who knows? There's a lot of things that could happen there, but I don't think it's going to be Prime in Dallas.
Well, and I guess that's one of the things, and then Steve, I'll go to you next, but you brought up a good point, Ben, and we talked about it last week when we talked to TJ about this whole position and about how, you know, the one strong coach that Jerry had who spoke his mind got rid of him, and that was Jimmy Johnson. So that kind of would surprise, like, you know, I could see Prime going there. Deion. I could see Deion going there, but at the same time, I don't see him, you know, just kind of following, you know, lockstep with whatever Jerry wants him to do. He just doesn't seem like that kind of guy. Steve, what are your thoughts?
And you probably can still hear me, but I think my computer is finally saying we're done for the night. But here's what we've got. We've got a lot of coaching candidates that are still alive in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. This is what is making this year so intriguing, is if you look at the list, no matter what team has an opening, the candidate list is full of folks from the Eagles, the Lions, the Ravens. You know, there were a couple from the Bucks. There's a Bill. You've got folks. So we've got a couple more weeks here before things are sorting out, because as you can see, there's nobody that's going out and just saying we need to hire somebody to get somebody in. All the teams that have openings are just interviewing. They know they're not in a rush, but as these teams, I mean, we'll see. I think we're going to see some movement next week, depending on who loses, that some of these vacancies may get filled. I mean, Jerry, I don't know what Jerry wants right now. I mean, I
don't think Jerry knows what Jerry wants.
I mean, Mike McCarthy in a lot of organizations probably still has a job, but you know,
not in my organization, he wouldn't.
What's that?
Not in my organization, he wouldn't.
You know what? I give him, I'm sorry, I'm probably a Pittsburgh homer with him, but I respect his coaching style. He is going to land on his feet, if not a head coach, as a coordinator, as we've seen a whole bunch of these guys that drop down from head coaches to Arthur Smith excluded, now that we're bringing it up. But I don't know who he's going to end up with. But as you're right, it's going to need to be somebody that's almost a yes man at this point. just coming in. Jerry's going to give him his list of demands and say, here's how we're coaching this team. We're going to draft accordingly. You need to adapt your style to make it work for me. If you can't do that, this is not your job.
Yeah. And Steve, to your point, I agree with you on McCarthy. I think that dude gets so much crap and so no, it's not just you being from Pittsburgh. I mean, but maybe I am biased for being that he's a former Packer, coach, but I thought he got, I thought they should have at least let him finish the season in Green Bay. And, people have been making fun of him ever since he went to Dallas, and all he's done is, with the exception of this season, which was injury riddled, all he's done is win games, at least in the regular season. So, Charles, what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders and the job right now in Dallas?
So, I want to remark on one thing that Steve said. I think most of these teams are taking their time in this coaching hires because both of the guys that everybody wants in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are going to be in the Super Bowl, and they all got to wait before they can make their decision. And if they hire somebody, they lose out on both of them. So that's the only thing that's going right now. Right now, they're just filling their interviews, making sure that they clear the Rooney Rule and get everything squared away before they can bring in the guys that they want to. So here's the thing, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I heard, Neon, he threw his hat into the ring for the Dallas job. The way I heard it first reported is that Deion wanted to be considered for the head coaching job. It wasn't that Jerry reached out to him as much as Deion's agents reached out to them about the coaching vacancy. So if that's true, which is, like I said, that's how I heard it first reported, then sure. I think that Deion wants to be there. I don't think I know that he played there and all, and he's loved there. He's loved in Atlanta. It'd be a good fit is from the fan base. I think they would like it. It's a familiar face, but yet a fresh face for the coaching staff. Yeah. But to Ben's point, I think he's better suited, at least right now, for the college game. I mean, he's still relatively new as a head coach. No kidding. I think you should he needs a few more years under his belt before he's really ready to step up from a coaching standpoint to a game as fast as what's in the NFL, because this ain't college ball and this ain't no fucking West Coast bullshit college football. All right, it's not. It's the NFL. Yeah. So while go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and to your point, I do believe. Okay, and Steve, have a good night, buddy. I know I just saw your note there. To your point, I think what you heard was accurate in terms of him or his guys, his agent reaching out. But what I heard was that at the end of the meeting, Jerry, it sounds like, was feeling better about hiring Deion than he did before, the meeting. So it worked out for Deion, and Jerry was more impressed than he thought he was going to be. So that's
I did hear that it was Deion. I heard that it was Deion that reached out first. Either way, his agents contacted them about the coaching vacancy that he was interested. The way it was first reported was Deion is interested in becoming the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think in time, seeing Deion, I love to see old Deion take a head coaching job in the NFL when the time is right. I think Oakland would be, I don't know why tonight I keep wanting to call them Oakland still. I think Vegas would be a good kind of spot. They kind of fit Deion's personality. I don't think Brady would allow him a little bit better. Yeah, with Brady being part, but you know what? How much input does he really have? I mean, how many chips does he really part owner? How many chips does he really have on the table? I don't think his percentage is really that much. I mean, plus, how seriously can you take him as an owner if he's still got a job on TV? That's a conversation for another day.
On TV.
I was going to say, I actually at it. Well, maybe, but I did hear a little bit of the same thing, that Adam just said.
He
That
can't even be at the meetings and stuff. Like
he's gonna have to choose
about it.
after this season, one or the other, and he'll probably choose ownership. Adam, what are your thoughts
Well,
here? We'll wrap it up.
Let me throw one thing in there.
Oh, okay.
I think Saleh gets the job in Dallas. That's who ultimately I think ends up their next head coach.
Ooh, I like that because I could see Aaron Glenn landing there too.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's a big candidate, but I don't know if he'll go to Dallas.
And well, I know he came out. I heard today that he came out and said that he would love to go to the Jets.
But see, didn't he play for the Saints though? Wasn't he? Didn't he play most of his career for the Saints?
I thought he also played for the Jets though, didn't he? For a little
he may
bit.
have. I thought that the majority of his career he was a big time Saint, so that would make sense to me. You always like to go, back home if you can. I see a lot of the coaches.
Here's what I think, and we'll wrap up the show here.
Yep.
With all due respect to Coach Prime, you are a legend of the NFL. Okay. You going to the Cowboys and head coaching is worse than me going to New England and being the GM. I at least know what the fuck I'm doing. You have no fucking clue what you're doing. You haven't had a good winning season. You haven't fucking recruited properly. Shut up, go coach, and go kick ass. Your Colorado teams have sucked. You have not developed an offensive line. You are at Jackson State. Oh, but he did good there. It's Jackson State. You have the best football player in Travis Hunter and your son, who should have never been at that level of football, who was way more talented than Jackson State. All due respect to Jackson State, who are still winning. Good shout-outs to them. Know your role, Coach Prime. Know your role. I know mine. I'm a better talent scout than you are a coach. And I'm saying that, and I get zero experience. Why? Because I've hit on more players than you have in your fucking college career. Yeah, shots fired. I do think he'll be a head coach one day. I want to see him succeed as a head coach, not crash and burn. Hey, Dion, don't do what happened to Chip Kelly. Stay in college, develop your play as a head coach, and then go kick ass in the NFL. I'm rooting for you, but please just get a little bit more of experience. That's all. Ben Johnson's going to end up with the Raiders.
No.
Really? You think the Raiders?
No. He wants to go somewhere that's got a quarterback. But, Raheem Morris is probably not long for the head coaching job for the Falcons.
Really?
I cannot see him lasting more than 2 more seasons, and that would be the perfect time for prime time.
I also don't know if Ben Johnson goes anywhere. I was
going to just ask
for the right spot.
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
Is there? But doesn't
he wants to run everything? Shad Khan's not going to let him run everything.
I don't know. See, I don't necessarily think that that's true. We saw him coming out here in these interviews and stuff. It sounds like he's starting to kind of get it a little bit, that he's got to loosen the reins and let his people do what they want to do.
Nope.
I mean, he straight told a reporter in front of his GM, the coach has a good enough reason, I'll let this douchebag go. I mean, come on.
He did say
that. I mean, he straight said that.
I'm waiting for Mike Vrabel to fire Elliott Wolf, but that's besides the point. I think Ben Johnson, unlike Dan Campbell, wants to run everything himself. I don't mean GM. I mean bring in his entire crew that he knows, because look who he's been under that has had success for 3 years building an elite franchise from shit to Super Bowl contender 2 years in a row in 3 years. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Lockstep in everything that this team in an identity and what they want to do. And I think that's what Ben Johnson wants. He wants to bring in his people. He doesn't want Jerryland. He doesn't want to be told that Jerry, sell the damn team. You have enough money. Sell the fucking team. Same thing with the Bears owners. Sell the team.
Has been in such disarray for so many years that I think that they would afford Ben Johnson the opportunity to do that. At this point, At some point, I mean, if you're a billionaire, you have to see the light of day, other than Jerry Jones, that, hey, you got to make a change. You got to do something different. If it's broke, fix it.
I honestly think I can see I think Ben Johnson lands with the Raiders. I don't know where Aaron Glenn lands. I think Glenn is going to go in and be an immediate superstar. I just have that gut feeling, Glenn over Johnson. And you all know I've been one of the biggest go get Ben Johnson supporters for the Patriots out there. I'm happy with the Vrabel call. I think he knows what he wants to do. I don't think he gets us to the Super Bowl, but I think he gets us a core to get us there. But again, that's besides the point. Deion, stay in college, please. Go develop your game. I think he's got potential as a head coach. Develop more plays. Get more used to being a head coach and being in that area of power. I also personally don't like how he coaches, but that's a whole nother story. Is get there on time. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. It is the way he approaches things to the players and what I've heard in interviews also just rubs me the wrong way from a culture standpoint. But
sure.
Besides
all
the
right.
point.
Well, let's wrap it up there. We're running a little bit late here, so we're gonna skip the 4 minutes on high for this week.
I'm so disappointed.
Did you have?
Let Charlie go. I got nothing. Let him go.
Well, let me just say one thing.
Okay.
Let him go. Let him go.
Cleveland, what kind of bureaucracy bullshit is going on in the state of fucking Ohio? First, you want to make fucking laws about flag planting, and now you're going to sue your fucking football team because they want to move 15 miles in the same county, mind you, 15 miles out of downtown because the opportunity to build a $2.4 billion dome? A dome! Y'all are fucking idiots suing your own fucking team. I had a lot more on that, but I'll keep it short.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, and I'm sorry. I was trying to do that. See, I got to learn this freaking.
You're fine.
We've only been doing this.
I'm in a different account, or I would have done it. So
I've only been doing this for like 2 years. I still haven't figured out how the hell to do the damn thing. Okay. Anyway. All right. Well, everyone, enjoy the playoffs this weekend. Hopefully, we get better games than we did this past week, especially
kidding.
Especially the Ravens-Bills game. I mean, I would love to see that. That has the ingredients to be an epic one. So
I got popcorn downstairs. I'm gonna pop it. I'm gonna put it in a big bowl. I'm gonna kick my legs back up on my desk, and I'm just going to enjoy. That's gonna be a spectacle of a game.
Everyone enjoy it like Adam, and we'll all see you guys back here next Wednesday. Take care, everybody.